All right, so welcome everybody. We're doing a live video here to talk to all the people who are racing Ironman UK. We thought we'd put together a quick kind of video guide. I'm Rob Wilby. If you don't know me, I'm the host of the Cup of Tri podcast and one of the coach at Oxygen Addict. This is Andy Heaps. He's my partner in Oxygen Addict, partner in crime, and he will be racing. So he's putting himself on the line in a couple of days' time, right?
In theory, yeah. See how that goes.
So what we thought we'd do, we'd have a sort of live video chat and talk through some of the things about Ironman UK that are a bit unique. And, you know, we live quite close to the course. We've ridden the course probably close to 25 times between the pair of us. So we know it pretty well. I've done the race a couple of times. You done it before? Is this your first time?
No, I've just been frantically studying the Athlete guide recently, so I'm fairly up to speed with it.
But we've, so we hope this is going to help some people out and give you some tips as you prepare for the race, really. So let's kick it off with race logistics. And obviously,
yeah, so it's probably quite an important one, this, with it being a split transition. That's probably the most logistically difficult part of the race, isn't it? So we've got the swim in Pennington Flash with T1 there, and then T2 is quite a bit further away, isn't it?
20k away, something like that, I think.
Yeah.
It's up at the Macron Stadium. So, you know, in terms of on actual race day, you're going to hop on your bike and ride 20k or so to get to the actual main loop that you do a couple of times. But in terms of the race logistics, it's worth spending a little bit of time thinking about the fact that on, you know, as race weekend unfolds and you've got to kind of take your bag to one place and your bike to another place and where to park and shuttle buses and that kind of stuff. So
yeah. So there's registration on Friday and Saturday, with bike racking on Saturday, but with it being that split transition, you need to make sure you're giving yourself plenty of time to get between the two locations. On race day itself, there'll be shuttle buses from, where is it?
Super early in the morning.
Yeah, it's from the stadium, isn't it? Down to Pennington Flash. But yeah, the day before, when you're racking, you need to make sure you've got your various bags in the various places. We'll come on to that in a bit, I think.
Yeah, sure. So race morning shuttle buses will zoom you from Bolton down to the race venue itself. So that's cool. Obviously, get there early. That's my first tip, because there's always, you know, a couple of hundred to a couple of thousand people trying to get on these buses. So give yourself plenty of time to get all that set up, and it's worth remembering that the briefings happen on the Friday and the Saturday, don't they?
Yeah.
Actually at the Macron Stadium.
Yeah, no briefings on race morning, so make sure you get yourself along to one of the scheduled briefings.
Yeah, cool. All right, so they're both on the Friday and the Saturday. The mechanics at the Macron, the day before, so any last minute bike problems, they can maybe help you out with there.
Yeah, so mechanics and pre-race massage as well, but you have to make sure you book in advance. You can't just, well, supposedly you can't just turn up with your bike and get someone to look over it there and then. So if you do think you'll need someone to look over it, make sure you book through Ironman in advance.
Good idea actually at the moment is we're still about a week and a half out, aren't we? Get your local bike shop to look your bike over and give it the once over and tighten the cables, and it gives you a chance to get new cables in if they think that they need it. Obviously, if you have it done the day before race day is an emergency, well, it's better than not having it done, but
not
ideal, no. So get the bike looked over by a shop or one of your mates who knows what they're doing. Okay, so we've got practice swims available on Friday and Saturday. The Athlete's Guide will have the details of that, and it's worth getting down to one of those, I think, if nothing else, just to get yourself in, check the water temperature, and so you kind of know what you're getting yourself in for on race morning. Because I don't think the water's going to be particularly cold. It's been pretty warm up here, hasn't it, this time of year? But it's a good idea to sort of swim yourself out and familiarise yourself with where the course is going to be. Have a look for landmarks and stuff like that, because it never looks the same from the water on race day with hundreds of people around you.
It's a fairly standard 2-lap swim, so there's nothing particularly complex to worry about. But yeah, if you do get the chance to swim it, it's always worth doing that in advance. Yeah,
a good idea as well is to, if they have the boys out in the practice swim, practice lining up the buoy with something in the distance on the shore, like a house roof or steeple of a church or a big tree or something, and then when there's loads of hats around you on race day, you won't be looking up and trying to see a small buoy. Like, hopefully they'll be big enough to see, but you never know. Sometimes you end up not being able to see the buoy and being able to take a bearing on something that's not take a bearing. You're not sitting with a compass in the water. But to be able to see something on the shore is pretty useful.
Yeah. Probably worth mentioning the welcome party as well. An essential part of the weekend.
Yeah.
So for those of you that are going, that's on Friday evening. But again, you have to reserve a place. So I don't think you can just turn up. So get your place reserved if you're going along to that. And then I'm sure something loads of people are going to be wondering about, the presentation and Kona slots and roll down will be on Monday. So if you think you're in with a shout to that, make sure you're back at I think it's back at the Macron on Monday morning.
And you never know, Andy. You always hear that story about the guy who was 230th in his age group and there was no one else there and it rolled down to him. So
was that you?
It wasn't me, unfortunately, no. I'd have taken it though if it had been me, for sure.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Right, let's talk bags then. There's one thing that an Ironman branded race does well. It's coloured bags to load everything into. So I think the one tip I'm going to give you here is, before you even get there, if you separate your stuff out so that in your car you've got your stuff in separate bags already, for stuff you need for the swim, stuff you need for the bike, stuff you need for the run, ready to go in 3 separate bags, and then have everything that you're actually going to be wearing on race day morning, such as your wetsuit, your goggles, your race outfit, somewhere separate. And then you'll probably end up with 3 piles of bags that look about the size of some carry-on for an EasyJet flight. So try and cut it down and try and not have huge amounts of stuff spilling over these bags. That'd be the first thing. Do you want to talk about the colours a little bit and say what they're all about?
Yeah, this is going to sound surprisingly complex when we go through this, I think. But so you get a number of bags. The first one is a blue one. So you get all these when you register. The blue bag is basically everything that you need for the bike goes in the blue bag. So helmet, shoes, any bike specific clothes, all that sort of thing.
Chamois cream.
Yeah, chamois cream. And that will live in T1. And
so do guys have to take that with them with their bike when they rack down at T1, down at the lake? They'll take that with them, presumably.
Yeah, I think it gets hung on a peg somewhere. So cool. there's a big rack. So you get out the water, take your wetsuit off, take all your biking stuff out of the blue bag, put all your swimming stuff into the blue bag, and then once you're out on the bike, that bag will get taken to T2 for you to collect.
It will magically appear there.
In theory. Then we've got the red bag. So the red bag is everything you need for the run. So that will live in T2. And likewise, when you're coming off the bike, you put all your biking stuff in that bag and you take all your run stuff out of it and head off out on the run.
So run shoes, socks, sun cream, everything else optional.
Yeah.
Pretty much at that point, I think. You know, you'll see guys with loads of stuff in that bag, but again, keep it as simple as you can. Make it as quick as you can, getting in and out of T2.
Yep. Then we have a white bag. So the white bag is the post-race bag. So basically anything that you want accessible as soon as you cross the finish line. So warm clothes, something nice to eat or drink, probably. That
usually gets filled with stuff that you're wearing as you go down to the swim start, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, that would make sense.
So you take the white bag with you. You get, you know, you don't. I'm guessing most people won't drive down in a wetsuit. So they'll go down, they'll take the tracksuit off, put that in the white bag. That'll be then waiting for you at the finish. You put your wetsuit on and you're good to go.
Yeah, so you drop the white bag off at the swim start. And then, that'll
again,
be the finish
magically be transported to the finish line for you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of logistics, aren't there, for the organisers for this? You have different places to take bags to. So
and for the athletes.
And special needs bags are the other one. So special needs bags is a bag you can put extra stuff in that you think you might need. So your favourite Mars bar, an extra bit of drink, maybe a spare inner tube or a spare tub might be a good idea, spare CO2.
Yeah, CO2.
And then that lives in a little table somewhere in, is it Buckshaw Village?
Yeah.
So you'll pass by twice on the bike course.
That's on the loop. So it's about 36 and then probably about 82 miles into the bike. So again, when you're packing your stuff in there, leave it in T1 on race morning and it'll be ready for you at that place on the bike route. one thing to note is that if you don't, well, it sounds like you don't get given a special needs bag. You have to request one in advance, so that when you register on whichever day you're registering, it'll be there waiting for you. But you have to have requested it to be able to pick one up.
Okay.
And the other thing worth mentioning is assume that the stuff you put in there you won't get back, because I think it all just gets...
It's all gone in a skip in previous years. So there's a big skip somewhere that will have hundreds of spare tubes and tubs and bits and bobs and stuff in. So
don't put a spare Garmin in. Or
no, exactly. Yeah. So again, check the weather forecast. It's not a stupid idea to put an old long sleeve top in the special needs bag, especially the one for the run. So if you're going to be out there a long time and it'll be getting dark when you're finished and you might be getting cold, an extra long sleeve top that you can pull on over the top of stuff can be a bit of a godsend for you there, I think.
Absolutely.
So that's something to think about. Again, if you've got spectators there, maybe it's not such a big deal. Maybe they just accidentally drop that on the floor in front of you and pick it up, and you know, we don't really be done for outside assistance, do we?
You'd never endorse that.
I would never endorse something like that happening. Don't do that if you're wearing my kit, right?
That's probably most of the logistics.
I think it is, yeah. I think so.
Move on to the swim.
Yeah, let's go on to the swim. Right, so obviously you come into the north of England. The weather, well, if you don't like it, just wait a minute and it'll change quite probably. So you'll probably get the 4 seasons in one day thing, and we're hoping you'll avoid the torrential rain that they had last year. But it's not a stupid idea racing in this country to have at least a pair of arm warmers to stick on in T1 if you decide you need them. It's usually pretty chilly, and the ambient temperatures are usually not baking hot, is it? First thing at 7 o'clock in the morning.
In Bolton.
And it's much more important that you don't get hypothermia than it is you're a little bit more aerodynamic. So I think, again, if you've got an old tri-top that you can pull on over the top of what you actually want to race in, that you can discard somewhere on the course with a spectator, don't just drop it on the ground, that can keep you warm for the first hour. So that's worth thinking about.
Yeah. So the swims are a rolling start, as most Ironmans are nowadays.
Yeah, pretty new thing really compared to how it used to be, and it seems to be going down pretty well.
How does it work then? So you seed yourself into pens based on
from guys who've raced, from guys who've raced this year out in, let's see, Norway and Germany. I've had some athletes race this past weekend, and they asked you to get into pens like the sub 60-minute pen, 60 to 70, 70 to 80, and 80 plus. And you get in the pen dependent on where you are, and they let 10 people in every 10 seconds at Germany, I think, something like that. So you've also got the thing, if you seed yourself with people who are similar to you, you're going to get a bit of a toe off them and have a cruisy swim. If you seed yourself too far forwards, you're probably going to get swum over by a lot of people, but you're going to give yourself a little bit more time to complete the swim. So I don't think that's so much of an issue, to be honest. I think they get the people into the water. You know, if they're getting in 10 every 10 seconds, that's 60 to 100 within a minute, isn't it? So, you know, within a 10-minute period, they're going to get most of the people into the water. Feedback from guys I've had racing has been people who see themselves too far forward cause real problems for everyone and have an unpleasant swim. So if you are like an over 90-minute swimmer, get in with the 90-minute swimmers. Don't get in with the 60-minute swimmers, because you're going to end up with people swimming over you for the first 20 minutes of your swim. So
yeah,
go with that.
The nature of the rolling start means you don't get a warm up, unfortunately.
Yeah,
because you're kind of in and starting, and that's it. So
yeah, that's it. So
unfortunately, you're just going to have to deal with that, I think.
Wave your arms around and the side of the swim before you get in, I guess, there, mate.
Yeah. So swim done, out into T1. What have we got going on in T1?
Pennington Flash. The thing to be aware of there is the road. Are we on the bike yet? I guess we're not.
No, coming into T1 from the swim.
Yeah, I think the thing to do is just go as quickly as you can safely. Don't mess anything up. You're not going to gain any time in an Ironman by sprinting through, unless you're really racing for the win in your age group.
It's not far, is it?
It's not. It's 100 yards from the water into the tent. Pick up your bag off the rack. Take your wetsuit off. There'll probably be some people there helping get your wetsuit off if you're struggling, and that can actually be more of a help than you think it will. If you're getting cramp in your ankles or whatever after the swim.
Are there officially people there, or is it just...
Yeah, there were, in lots of the ones I've done, there have been people who are offering to help you, and quite often they're offering to put your wetsuit in the bag for you once you've stripped it off, so you can zoom out. So they've been quite efficient. So yeah, that's interesting. You've got probably grass underfoot, and then if it has been raining hard, the only thing to be aware of is getting your bike shoes and stuff completely clogged up. But you know, you never know what the weather's going to do, so you can't really sort of legislate for that, can you? I suppose.
And there's a change in tent, isn't there, for anyone who wants to fully get changed?
Yeah, great big white marquees there you can get changed in, so that's pretty cool. And then
you're not allowed to get naked.
No, don't get naked. Let's put it in the bag, and off you go out the door, and you're onto your bike.
Yep. Oh, what portaloos? Is it worth mentioning portaloos? There's normally portaloos in T1.
There's usually rows of them.
Yeah. So it's probably not that much of an issue in terms of accessing one when you're in T1. Give yourself plenty of time before you start swimming there. I say when you need to go to the portal.
And our good karma point here is take a whole toilet roll with you, and then when you're done, leave it in there. And who knows, you might get paid back later in the day by somebody, because there's nothing worse than not having any first thing in the morning.
Stand in the queue looking smug.
Right, so onto the bike then. The first thing to be aware of, the road out of the Pennington Flash Park has got 3 or 4 or 5 big speed bumps on. So you'll get yourself up to speed, and then it's a real bottle launcher, you know, real. And you'll see on the old videos people losing the bottles and stuff. So just slow down a bit, brake, get yourself over it gingerly, off you go again. The road's maybe, I don't know, 200 to 400 yards long before you hit the main road. So you're not going to make up the tons of time there anyway. So just take it easy along there. Be aware of other people around you.
A lot of people ask about whether it's because the profile of the course is undulating.
Yeah.
To put it nicely.
Yeah,
so a lot of people talk about
it's an honest bike course, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's what we'll say. There's not a lot of free speed on it.
So is it a road bike course? Is it a TT course? And I think all things being equal, it's definitely a TT bike course, isn't it?
If you're the kind of guy who's got a TT bike and you're happy on it, or the kind of girl who's happy on it and you're confident riding it, I would absolutely choose the TT bike over not. The climbs will cover in a little while, but mostly you're definitely going to be faster on the TT bike than the road bike for sure.
I mean, it's a bit windy. There are a few climbs, but there's still kind of relatively long, flat down type sections where you can make up a lot of time on a TT bike.
Yeah.
So
all things being equal, TT bike for sure.
Yeah. And then road surfaces. So it's not great, is it, normally?
No, as much as we love the Northwest, it's not a great road surface. Lots of it's resurfaced recently, but they haven't laid that nice smooth tarmac you hope for. They've done that thing where they kind of lay pebbles over the top and roll it in. So
not literally pebbles, but
what's called chip seal. Yeah. So
hopefully they'll sweep that before race day. But
you'd hope so. It's not a super fast bike course. It's not super fast tarmac. There's plenty of potholes in places, so just be aware as you're riding, and stay out of the gutters, I suppose, really. But it's definitely not the kind of course like Austria or Germany where you can put your head down and ride for 100 yards without looking where you're going. You're really going to have to concentrate on what's going on around you.
I should know this, but it's closed roads, isn't it?
It's mostly closed, yeah. I think there are sections that are open still. The smaller roads are closed, and some of them are open in the opposite direction. But in Britain, I would never discount fan traffic coming in the opposite direction anyway. So again, be aware of that.
One thing to watch out for on some of the so there's a fast section through Belmont up towards the roundabout where the motorway is. That's fast, but it can be quite prone to crosswinds. So just hold on for dear life if you're really going down there.
Yeah, for sure. And I suppose let's think of the danger points on the course. Obviously the descent over the top side down into Belmont, the descent
from Sheep House
Lane. So we call it Sheep House Lane, but it's a big sort of 4 or 5 mile climb up to the top of the moors. Steep, windy, definitely worth driving before the race. And as you actually come down into Belmont, you come down a steep little bit into the village, and it's a very sharp 90-degree left-hand turn, which you are going to have to properly put the brakes on, or you're going to end up in the cones on the wrong side of the road there for sure. So be super aware of it.
It was one of the pros a few years ago, just hit that corner way too fast and basically went off the edge of the road into a massive ditch. So don't do that.
It's super. There's a couple of proper 90-degree bends down there, so make sure you've had a good look at that beforehand.
Yeah.
Other than that, there's a section in Chorley, isn't there? Just where you've gone past David Lloyd, steepish climb, and then over the top, and you kind of come down the hill over the canal, and at the bottom of there, very steep left-hand 90-degree bend.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, it's a nasty one.
Okay.
So again, could do a little map on the screen as you do that. Yeah, never mind. Gearing wise, what are you going to run, Andy? In a perfect world.
In a perfect world, I'd probably have 36, 28.
Yeah, compacting a 28 on the back will do most people, I think, on this course.
Yeah, so the main thing to watch out for with the gearing is the hills. So the two main, or the hills that most people talk about are Hunters, which is about 1.5 to 2K long, averages about 5%. It's fairly steady, so the average gradient doesn't deviate too much from that. And then Sheep House Lane a bit further along, which is longer at 3.3K. That averages 5.3%, but there's a couple of steep sections in there, so there's like 700 meters or so where it's up to 7%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're on it, it really does.
Yeah, we've been looking at these gradients and trying to get the numbers right for you before we did the presentation, and we were looking at it going, really?
It feels like it's about 20%. Maybe that's just with how tired the legs are.
The steep section on Sheep House definitely feels like a steep. It feels like 1 in 5 to me. You know, it's like you're out of the saddle just before you turn sharp left up towards the moors. There'll be big crowds up there anyway, people shouting at you, and probably some lunatics dressed in superhero costumes.
Looking forward to that bit.
So you'll be out of the saddle going up there for sure. But it's maybe, what we're going to say there, 400 yards, 600 yards at the steep parts.
Yeah, you hear a lot of people thinking that those two hills particularly are quite a big deal, and yeah, they are in terms of the fact that they are the two big hills, but they'll be over before you know them. So I wouldn't worry too much about them. Yeah,
there's plenty of other rollers on the course there for you.
Yeah.
Wheels. I think the fastest wheels that you've got, really. If you've got a disc and you're happy with it, use it.
Worth it.
Definitely. 60 mils, perfect for this course. I think the only caveat is if it's windy on the tops over Belmont, then you're going to get blown around a bit, as you found out, haven't you?
Yes.
Andy had a go on the 90 mils down that section and
holding on for dear life.
Yeah, so it can be a bit crosswindy up there, so I play the forecast a bit, but I think most people, definitely men, 60 mil up front and 60 mil or a disc at the back will be the way to go for sure, I think.
Yeah, good stuff. So nutrition wise, we've got 3 feed stations, haven't we?
Yeah.
So are all of these on the loop? So do you pass through them all twice?
Yeah, you do.
Okay. Oh yeah, it's probably worth saying that because it's a loop, you do those hills twice as well.
Yeah, that's right. So you've got the section from the swim up to Bolton, and you'll pass by like the Macron Stadium and stuff, and then you hit the loop and you turn right and you're up Sheep House and you do the loop that way, and then Hunters is over here, and then up Sheep House, and Hunters is over here,
and then back down. And
then when you get to the bottom of Sheep House the third time, you don't go up it, you turn back into the centre of the town.
Yeah,
which will be a welcome relief at that point.
So 3 feed stations: Rivington, Buckshaw, and Maudsley. By the looks of it, they've got power bar stuff, so power bar drinks and bars, water and bananas, and it's the typical thing where you've got people at those feed stations holding out bottles for you to, in theory, grab as you go past.
Well, here's
not too high a speed.
Here's our tip for this. You're not in the Tour de France and they're not your personal soigneur, so they're not going to be running alongside like you've seen them do next to Chris Froome. So slow down a bit as you go through. It is next to impossible to collect a water bottle if your combined speed is, 30 kilometers an hour. You need to slow down and brake, and you're going to see people all over the road. You're going to see bottles flying everywhere if you guys don't do this. So chill out, slow down a bit, get the bottle. Thank you very much. Discard your old one just before you get there. They usually have a nice target there, so you can chuck your bottle into the hedge just 100 yards before, get your new bottle, and off you go, and everything's cool and groovy.
Easy as that.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything else I think is pretty cool, isn't it, from that point on? Worth mentioning, there's a mechanic on the course, but they won't help mend punches, and I really wouldn't kind of count on seeing them.
Yeah,
you might be lucky if you have
a handful of guys on motorbikes, isn't it?
A major mechanical, but try and, I'd advise everyone to make sure they've got 2 tubes with them, tyre levers, CO2, and a multi-tool that's got all the Allen keys that you need to adjust all the bolts on your bike, because you can guarantee that something's going to go haywire, even if you adjust it and tighten it the week before. Have that stuff with you. It's worth the extra few grams to carry it.
Cool. Is that everything on the bike?
I think it is. That's our bike done. And let's kick off onto the run, I guess.
Onto the run. So it's not flat, is it?
I think it would be fair to say it's not flat. Yeah, it's, you got a flat section through Bolton town centre, but the rest of it is all either gradually uphill, gradually downhill, gradually uphill, gradually downhill, and none of it feels steep, even to the point where if you drive the course beforehand, you could be lulled into thinking that it's flat, but it's definitely not. You'll definitely feel the ups and downs.
So there's a section out of T2, isn't there, that's, what is it, probably 7 miles long, something like that,
yeah.
But until you get to the lapped part, and there's a particularly nasty hill. Short,
straight out of transition.
Yeah.
A couple of 100 yards, very steep. May as well walk that and save your legs.
Yeah.
Got a bit through the town, and then you drop down onto Canal. Is that right?
I don't know. I've not done it.
Okay. We should check that out. We'll do a video. But I think from memory, you drop down onto a kind of footpath next to the canal that's really flat for a few miles, which is lovely. You do for sure.
Okay.
And then you come up a steep little embankment and you come out on Chorley New Road, where you'll see me in this t-shirt going, yay, come on everyone. And then you're backwards and forwards along Chorley New Road, down into the town at the end, back and forwards along Chorley New Road.
A few
laps of that. Yeah.
So 3 laps, isn't it? You get a band after every lap. When you've got 3, that means you can head to the finish line.
You are done. And it's worth mentioning there's a steep hill out of Bolton town centre as you come up to Chorley New Road. So again, we're probably talking 200 yards long, steep enough to make you wonder whether you want to run it the last time up it for sure. So the power walk is going to be the key for most people, I think.
Yeah. And then when you've actually finished, so like we said before, you will have the bag, whichever colour it was, I can't remember. Was it
the white bag will be waiting for you, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And then you can collect your other stuff from T2 anytime. I think it's between 5:30 and 11 on race day, or if you finish a bit later, you might have to wait until the next day, and it's any time after 9 o'clock the next morning.
But you want to be hanging out and eating pizza and
yeah,
hanging out in the centre of Bolton. They had a huge, great big marquee set up there right in the town square, and the finish line's awesome. And last year they had an enormous truck with a massive, great big screen on.
Oh, nice.
It was really cool, actually. The centre of Bolton's got some really cool looking old buildings there that it finished in front of. So cool place to be and hang around and cheer people on afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. So that's probably most of the actual race itself, isn't it? There's
Yeah.
a few other bits like rules and stuff like that that are worth mentioning.
Yeah. Let's bang through these.
Most of these are fairly standard, aren't they? So you have to wear the swim cap you've been given. You have to have your helmet done up before you unrack your bike, and don't undo your helmet until you've re-racked your bike. Drafting is 12 meters lengthways.
Front wheel to front wheel, 12 meters, I think.
Don't know. Is that what it normally is?
It's got to be far enough apart that you can drive an estate car between the two of you. That's how I sort of think of it. Okay, and you know, everyone watching this knows what drafting is. Just don't do it. Don't ride in a pack.
Yeah.
You've got 25 seconds to pass somebody, and if you haven't done, you got to drop back again.
Yeah.
So there we go. Dead simple. Don't ride next to somebody. Don't ride behind somebody. It's an individual event.
Yeah. You're not allowed to urinate in public.
So no weeing on the bike, despite what you've heard on the Obey Talk podcasts.
We mentioned this before. You're not
Don't
allowed.
get caught weeing on the bike.
You can't get naked in transition, no matter how much you want to.
Or on the bike.
Yeah, or on the bike. If you need to in transition, go in the change in tent. Or there'll be a change in tent in T2 as well, most probably, if you want to change into running gear. No external assistance apart from, there is one designated place, isn't there? Is that on the
run course?
That's on the run, yeah.
There's somewhere where your friends can give you stuff.
Yeah. So if you're planning on that, if you're planning on someone having food or clothes or whatever, make sure they're in the right place at the right time, and that'll be in the athlete's guide.
Yeah, cool. And you can't wear headphones on the run. That's the only other thing, really, for obvious reasons. I think that's pretty standard in an event, isn't it? So So yeah, that's the main rules of the race covered really. And just to cover off, you've got 2 hours 20 to complete the swim. You've got 10 hours 30 from the start time to complete the bike, and there's some intermediate cut-offs along the way. So if you think you're going to be in danger of those, check them out beforehand. And you've got a total time of 17 hours to complete the whole thing from start to finish. So if you're not in, you don't get your medal. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. But hopefully you all will be. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Happy days.
17 hours is a long time. You can, you know, I'd like to say to people, if you're having a bad day, if you power walk the marathon, the chances are you're going to get yourself to the finish line. So, yeah, it really isn't over till the fat lady sings on this, and it's all about getting yourself across the finish line. So keep on moving. Don't sit down. Everything's going to be golden.
Yep. That's pretty much everything.
That's about it, I think. So if you're racing Ironman UK, we wish you all the best. It's a pretty exciting thing, isn't it, Andy? You getting nervous yet?
Yep.
I'll be out on the course cheering people on, so give us a high five if you see us out there.
I'll be out on the course crying.
So. Yeah, if you see Andy, give him a push up the hill. And apart from that, have a great race. I hope this video has helped you out, and thanks very much for watching. Tune in again soon.
Thanks everyone. Bye.